So that's a pretty good sense in just a few minutes of what my life has been like through different stages of technology. And if this is something that is interesting to you, what I can tell you is that I've gotten to travel all around the world. I've gotten to be a part of so many different cultures and different learning experiences, and done it through the lens of technology as it relates to creativity and storytelling, which I think is really fascinating. And it's been a terrific career that, for someone that likes to have fun and doesn't perceive work as work, but perceives work as challenges and interesting opportunities to move the ball forward, it was kind of the perfect sort of career for me. And a big part of it is I had great mentors. I had great teachers when I was young in public school in Orlando, Florida. A couple key teachers that set me on the stage for learning about public speaking and putting my thoughts together in a clear, concise way that has served me really, really well over the years. As you see from that little video, I do a lot of presentations over the year. I do more than 100 presentations all over the year, all over the world usually, and these days just by video chat, still all over the world. Yesterday I was doing a video chat with my friends from Intel in India, so for a few thousand people, except I was here in California doing it. So I want to go through a couple of other things that I think will be relevant to you as you're all learning about the future and where things are going. I think a lot about screens. I think a lot about the screens you're looking at right now, the screen you're watching me on right now, and how they evolve, right? So I have a picture here of screens from the past, right? From like your great-grandparents' TV, to your grandparents' TV, to your parents' TV, and then to your TV. And I like to make the argument about people that these things are actually more the same than different. Certainly they're more advanced, the one that's big and 4K and bright and super thin, but it effectively does the same thing. It's a window to the world, right? It's a window that we can create entertainment that has a border, that we know where it starts and we know where it ends. It's got sides and we know what that is, right? We call that a TV, and it's typically in the shape of a rectangle or a square. As we look at computer technologies, they're essentially the same thing. They're either a rectangular or a square image, right? We know where the border is, and certainly they've evolved from the boxy computers that I used to use when I was young to the laptops that I have all over this environment here and all over the world, but they're effectively the same thing. They do the same thing. They've just been evolved and more sophisticated and more powerful, and obviously more cost effective, more colorful, right? But they really have done the same things for a number of generations now, call it 40 years. This is a big deal, however, because we realized that what people wanted was to take their screen on the go with them, to do everything that they used to have in their office or in their home, or that would sit on a desk or sit on their lap, and they wanted to actually carry it with them all the time. And this became the mobile compute revolution. But it turned out that what people really want is a screen that can do all the things that their bigger screen could do, just something they can carry with them. So if we think about this in what I like to refer to as the digital metaphor, right? This is just a way to think about digital technology. Essentially everything we do, and I don't know if I can move my cursor around here. Let's see, I guess I can't, but what it says is everything is TV. We may be able to cut to this and show you. It basically says the digital metaphor, everything is now TV. So effectively what we've done is we've turned things that used to be physical, like writing physical mail, we turned that into TV mail, which is email, right? We turned reading books and newspapers into TV reading, which is essentially reading on an iPad or a Kindle. We've turned things like gossip and socialization into some sort of version of TV, which is Facebook. We've turned navigation into some version of TV. We used to use big paper maps, and now we use our smartphone with some sort of like TV screen that shows us the world. We've turned shopping into effectively TV. One of the world's largest companies, Amazon, is effectively TV shopping. That's what you do, right? You sit on some sort of screen and you pick and choose the objects you want, the merchandise you want, and it comes to your home magically through the value of TV. And of course, what we're doing right now, communication in all of its forms, has become some version of TV. And during the COVID virus time, this TVizing of communication has become extraordinarily popular. And people that have never video chatted in their life are video chatting 5 or 6 times a day now. I do hours and hours of video chat every day because I live in the world of advanced TV screens, right? However, all of these screens are still traditional screens. They're still defined by the rectangle or the square, like what you're looking at me on right now. But there's a new screen coming, and I showed you some of the techniques and some of the devices I use here in my home that are starting to get to the next level of what a screen can be. So here's the way I like to look at it. That's the first Mac that I ever owned, right? That was 30-something years ago. This is today's Mac that I own, right? My little pocket computer. Believe it or not, if I set this on the side, the screen size of this and the screen size of my first Mac are almost the same. It's just everything else got way smaller, right? I certainly couldn't put my first Mac in my pocket. I could carry it and set it up on a desk somewhere. It weighed, I don't know, 11 pounds. But this is really almost the same thing, just evolved, right? So here's the question that I like to ask to sort of everybody that I work with. Are we ready to break out of this rectangular concept of a screen that we've been living with our whole lives? So this is sort of my thesis that I work with at the studio, that I bring to people, that I bring to all the studio executives and all the people that I work with. This thesis and this concept that I believe that we are on the cusp of figuring out how to wear our screens rather than hold our screens. And this is sort of the visual example of why I think this is going to happen, because this is from a trip I made to China last year, and I took some pictures of people all around in China and what they were doing with their little pocket screens. They were literally holding them in front of their faces, looking down, staring at them all day long. And I know you kids that are watching this, you do this too. So this is the world that we live in today, right? And whether we want to admit it or not, we look at screens all day long. On average, we're looking at screens over 11 hours a day. And very often it's this little pocket screen that we're holding in front of our face. So I want to take you back in time now to the sort of first touch that I had of something called virtual reality. This goes all the way back to the late 90s. So this is a number of decades ago. This was the CEO of Disney World at the time, a guy named Michael Eisner, and this was a very rare clip that I had to find of him talking about a brand new kind of attraction that was going to be in their special new indoor theme park called Disney Quest. So here we go.
Hello, I'm Michael Eisner. I'm here in the virtual reality studio where Disney Imagineers are creating a whole new world of storytelling. Tiny TV screens inside this headset actually allow you to step into the world of Aladdin on a magic carpet ride. It's called virtual because it's a world which only exists inside a computer. Reality because unlike film or television, you see not just what's on the screen, but what's above, around, and behind you. And you control when you return to the real world. I wonder where the exit is. Oh well, welcome to the wonderful world of Disney.
So you can see, even though I don't work for the Disney studio, I work for another studio, Paramount, the Disney concepts and the Disney Imagineering had a big impact on my life, and I did a lot of work for Disney when I was much younger. This was really impactful for me. I got to see this as a much younger version of myself in this sort of newfangled indoor theme park, and you can see these specialized computers and these gigantic custom headsets that cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to build per headset, took you on this journey inside technology. And I still remember what that felt like. It was very different than a movie, very different than a TV show. So that was in the late 90s. Now, let's flash forward, and you saw a little clip of this in that little video montage before. 20 years later, now the computers cost just a few $1,000s, the headsets cost just a few $100s, and for those of you that are fans of Nintendo and know what Mario Kart is and have played Mario Kart on your Wii, this is living inside Mario Kart in Japan. That's my daughter, and this is my friend from Japan, and here we are in the midst of literally playing this game that you would have played at home, except now we're inside the experience. It's actually like we're really in the experience of Mario Kart, and this is the power of virtualization. When you start to understand that the screen is no longer just this little bordered thing, that it can track with you and it can sort of be part of your life experience as you kind of move through this understanding of what we call virtual reality. So this is where it gets really interesting. Now, this is now flash forward again a few years later. where I talked about this device here, the Oculus Quest. This is a completely mobile, portable device. And you can see in this demo video what she's doing. But if those of you that remember the Nintendo Wii, it's very similar to what the Nintendo Wii did on a traditional screen. You do kind of the same stuff, except now the screen is more powerful and the screen makes things from the artificial world feel real. That's what's really interesting about it. So we call this spatial entertainment for the home, right? And this is their videos. And you can see the similarities 20, 25 years later to what you do in virtual reality to then what you did on your Wii. So it's just a good reference point, because if you played the Wii, you know what virtual reality can do. Because the Wii was essentially simulation type gaming. You actually bowled in the living room. You played tennis in the living room. And now we can do that with these newfangled headsets. So this is a low-cost device, gives you what we call 60 degrees of freedom. The screen can look where you look, and you can track your body, which is really interesting. It's very advanced, and it's very inexpensive, just a few $100s to buy one of these things. But it's still got a problem. These devices are still what we call BOF devices, and what that stands for is box on face. So if I put this on, this is effectively a big giant box on my face. Now, it's lightweight, it's very advanced, it actually works great, but it's still a big box on your face. So the idea of getting this to be a mass market consumer product is a long way away, right? Because not everybody's gonna wanna wear a big box on their face all day long. So now we move to the next generation of this stuff, which is I like to call beyond the box on the face. So these are devices called mixed reality devices. I showed you one earlier, that's this one here that you can see that's Shaquille O'Neal wearing one up in the corner behind me there. And they come in different shapes and formats and different styles of use case and capability and power, but they start to look like glasses. They're not glasses quite yet, but they start to look like glasses, right? Eventually they will look like glasses, and that's really interesting. This, as you, I'm sure probably know, or a lot of you know, is the CEO and the head of Facebook, a guy named Mark Zuckerberg. He bought the largest now VR company in the world that he has cultivated and grown into a nice sized business. That's what this device is. It's made by a company called Oculus, which is a Facebook company. He went on stage a few years ago at a conference that we all attend up in the Northern California and talked about the future of virtual reality. And here's a company that's got effectively billions of dollars invested in virtual reality. And he said very clearly that the future of virtual reality isn't this kind of device, it's something that looks more like glasses. And that was a couple of years ago. So he admitted to himself and to the world that they need to evolve that. And that's what's happening right now. So I like to ask this question, when will we know it's right enough to really get there, right? We start to study about the form factor and the comfort of the device. And we figured out the ears, which is kind of interesting, right? So in these pictures, I'm actually showing something interesting. This is from an audio company called Bose that you might have heard of. These aren't just sunglasses. They look like sunglasses, but these are actually audio sunglasses that can connect to my iPhone and actually play sound, and I can take phone calls on these. So when I'm on my walks every day, I wear these, and they look like sunglasses, except they give me audio and there's nothing in my ears, right? So this is a nice advancement in technology that is just a couple $100s. You know, these are not free. They're still relatively expensive for what they are, but these are going to get cheaper over time and more effective over time. So that's kind of a way of that. And of course, I'm sure a lot of you know these and probably own some of these. These are the Apple AirPods, right? So you put them in your ears like this, and they're very, very effective. And what's interesting about this, for those of you that are like study business in school and want to get into the business of entertainment, if you're curious about what a success these are, they're just for your ears, right? And they've been working on it for a long time. We're looking for the success of this to get to our eyes, which is an even much bigger opportunity, where we talk about our AV system on our face, right? But here's something really interesting from a business standpoint. If Apple decided to split off their company and just sell AirPods as its own company, right? This is the only product they would sell as a separate company from Apple. They would keep all the other Apple stuff separate, and they would just sell this. This would be a very, very large company. It would be worth over $170 billion as a business valuation, which those of you that are studying business, you might be interested in that. This would be the 31st or 32nd largest company in the world just selling these Apple AirPods, which is kind of amazing. Bigger than a lot of the other big companies you know about, just selling these. That's how successful they've been. Because they're projected to sell a whole bunch of these things this year and in the next coming years. And I think a lot of people during the pandemic have bought these because they've realized they need them. So as we talk about our friends at Facebook, right, they are definitely confirmed that they're building these augmented reality glasses. They've moved lots of employees to different divisions working on the next generation, not the big box on the face, but the next generation. Beyond the box on the face is where they're headed with all their technology. And as it relates to my friends at Apple, I like to talk about Apple, but I also like to tell you that what I know about Apple or don't know about Apple is not relevant here. These are just people predicting things that might happen with Apple. And this is out on the internet, it's public. You can look at this material. It's all from what I like to call the rumor mill. People like to predict what Apple might do when it comes to building wearable technology, which I think is really interesting. I think a lot about this device, right? The Apple Watch, which is super, super small and super, super powerful. So if you think about everything that this watch can do and how tiny it is, just imagine taking the power of this and spreading it out on more surface area where your eyes and your ears and the temples are. You have 3 or 4 more times the surface area, which means that Apple very likely might be working on something very powerful that leverages the power of what they've developed with the Apple device, the Apple Watch, and they can spread it out to where your face and your eyes are, which is really interesting. Because it can do lots and lots of things, right? I mean, this effectively can do what its bigger brother can do, just smaller, right? So you can sort of imagine where this might head. And you can see if you like to read the news and track all this technology stuff, Apple is definitely working on something. They have job hiring, so you may end up working for Apple in this field if you find this area interesting. Right? There's just a lot of news about the fact that they may end up building something that's going to matter here. This is complete speculation. It's from the internet, but wouldn't it be interesting is instead of your computer being something that sits on your desk or something you hold in your hand, it's literally something you wear. So just watch this little video clip. Maybe. Keep your eyes peeled and keep tracking the news, and you never know. This might be the next computer you own or something like it. Okay, so as we wrap up, I want to show you some other kind of things that I get to work on. There's a whole range of businesses and industries around 3D capturing and 3D scanning objects. And we can now scan humans photorealistically. At Paramount, we did a movie last year called Gemini Man that used this kind of technique. And we made a virtual Will Smith because he plays himself at a younger age. I got a chance to do something similar. I went into something called a scan truck, which is like a big RV with all these cameras in it. I only spent 10 minutes inside this device. And I stood there and I put my hands out like this and I put my hands out like this. And that was it. And then I left. And a week later, they sent me something that is pretty remarkable. Now, keep in mind, I don't know how to dance at all. Right? I could do certain things. I can certainly give a presentation and I can sing a little bit and I can play guitar, but I definitely don't know how to dance. What they created is a digital version of me without me participating in this at all, other than just having my picture taken for 10 minutes like that. And this is what came out of it. So that's kind of interesting because that's me without really being me. Those are definitely the pants that I was wearing. It looks exactly like it. That's exactly the sweater I was wearing. It looks exactly like it. The shoes that I was wearing, those are some fun shoes from New Zealand. They look exactly like the shoes I was wearing. So if you're interested in like the interactive entertainment business, gaming, game engines, this kind of stuff as a career, there's a lot of career opportunities out there for you to explore with all this technology. And if you learn some basic coding in school and some basic game engine techniques that you can learn online, and you can start to investigate this stuff on your own, there's lots of careers out there. And this is quite a big business, this kind of stuff, and it's growing all the time. So that's just one little segment of how do you create a virtual you, which is one of the things that a futurist gets to do. So as we wrap up, this was also in that little video clip. This was from a speech I gave a year or so ago, and they drew a cartoon of my presentation as I was talking about it. This is all the things that we talked about today in our little half-hour session here. So this might be interesting for you to just kind of know, take a picture of this, or know all the things you kind of want to remember, all the stuff we talked about. This is a lot of what we talked about, how this kind of world is evolving and what's changing. So now I'm going to stop sharing my video screen here. And I'll go back to a larger size. There we go. So, so that's what I wanted to discuss with you today as we start looking at building this video series of remote learning. Hopefully you enjoyed what I talked about and what I showed. I put my email up there and my Twitter handle up there in that last slide, so you have all that. And I look forward to meeting some of you in person someday, or meeting some of you on video chat in the near future. And we're going to have a whole series of these with different people working in the entertainment industry that all have very interesting, unusual jobs that I would say are just as interesting and just as dynamic and just as fun as mine. So thanks for watching, and hope to see you soon.